restart. I don't want people to lip read. Don't. No. Well, hello, happy Monday, and welcome in to On Iowa Live here at the Pickle Palace. Thanks everyone for joining us once again on the rooftop. We are excited to be here as long as the weather is this nice. Joining me this week is Scott Dochterman from The Athletic. Thanks again. Hope your travels went well.
They went great.
Good.
And I'm back in Iowa, which I couldn't be more happy about.
Yes, we're happy to have you. And then KCRG TV9's Jack Lido is joining me this week as well. Good to see you back in town as well.
Thank you.
Boys left me last week. Let's start with just our weekend wrap. I'll go first, though. Mine's actually upcoming. I'm a Swiftie, and if anyone knows anything about being a Swiftie, Taylor Swift's album drops this week. My coworker Becky, very nice enough to make me this bracelet. So that's what I'm looking forward to on Friday. Maybe I'll drop some references and some Friday Night Lights highlights. We'll get creative. Scott, what's yours?
Don't shake it off. My son, Braden, a West High graduate, lives in Bavaria these days. And today he went to Oktoberfest in Munich. And while he was there, he was wearing this shirt, this black and gold shirt with beer in it. He got stopped twice, once by a couple from Dubuque and once by a man named Dave in Cedar Rapids. Both of them said, "Go Hawks," to him there. So I want to say that we live in a big world here, but it's also a very small world at times, and it made his day, and I think he made theirs.
Oh, little piece of home so far away, right? That's nice. Yeah. Jack?
Well, I'm cheating a little bit because I'm going back to not this weekend, but last week. But one of the reasons I wasn't here was I went back home to New York and I celebrated two of my best friends getting married, Nicole and Evan Ross. And Nicole Ross, that's weird to say now. But here are some pictures. That's me, obviously on the right side, guy in the bow tie. That's my best friend Evan. There's Evan on the left, Nicole, and you're going to love this one, Chelsie. That's me and the groom from circa 2000, 2001, 2002.
Nice.
It's been a long time. So it's a rare thing to be so close with all your childhood friends. And that picture from before, it's kind of a mix 50-50 of people I've literally known since I was 3 or 4 years old and people who have just been added to the group over time.
No, well, mazel tov to them.
Thank you.
Glad you got to enjoy it. All right, well, let's talk some football. Starting with the Hawkeyes, they fall 20-15 to now number 8 ranked Indiana. I thought this game, though, was closer than I think a lot of people anticipated. I thought this was a great test for Iowa, and I think Indiana was tested in ways that they maybe did not expect. Scott, maybe what are some of your takeaways just from the loss?
Well, I went to the game, Illinois at Indiana, and so I was fully prepared for 31-0 at halftime or 10-10 at halftime, which is what it really turned out to be. And I thought both teams faced a great test. Indiana has not played a game like this. They've been beaten at Notre Dame and Ohio State, and that's it since Kurt Cignetti has been the head coach. So they came to Iowa City. And they weren't sure what to expect. Well, they got the full Iowa treatment. Iowa dragged them down into the rubber filament and pretty much had the game won. But then you could say a mistake in 3 core areas cost them the outcome in the last 2+ minutes. So I thought the game was there for the taking. I thought they played really well. I thought they actually played better than I expected. But it still doesn't give you that. It still gives you that hollow feeling in your stomach that it was right there and you didn't get it.
Yeah, let it slip away. Jack?
Just as a general impression, this is a game that Iowa usually wins. A close game dragging down into the mud. It was a weird game because if you had told an Iowa fan a week ago Indiana would win the turnover battle, there'd be too many missed tackles to count. Iowa would miss a field goal and have a punt partially blocked. They'd probably tell you, well, Indiana came in, beat the Hawkeyes, 24-10, 28-17. But Iowa was there, and we'll break down some of the little details in a second. But this is a type of game that Kirk Ferentz usually wins, but because of how good Indiana is, they were able to eventually make that big play. We were waiting. Which quarterback would make the big-time throw? a lot of it is luck. Obviously, injury luck. Gronowski goes down, and Fernando Mendoza makes the huge throw against zero pressure.
Well, let's start maybe with the good. And I'll start I thought defensive stops in particular were the good. Obviously, Iowa held Indiana to 20 points. The Hoosiers came in, though, averaging more than 55 points, I believe. And then the Hawkeyes held the Hoosiers. They went 0 for 3 on 4th down. That was key. 6 for 15 on 3rd downs. And Cohen Intringer, I mean, he was a madman out on the field. Finished the game with, obviously, a team-high and career-high 10 total tackles. 2 for loss. I thought that their front effort went really well. I know Jack mentioned a little bit too about the missed tackles and everything, but that defense, I think they can kind of look at this game and say we grew last week.
I thought they played really, really well on defense. They did miss tackles, and everything is magnified in close games like this because you can identify each and every stop, each and every possession that they could have done something a little bit better, a little bit different. And that's true. And they're going to look at every detail, and rightly so. But I was very impressed with how they handled the passing game. I saw, Fernando Mendoza go 21 to 23 for 5 touchdowns against the number 9 Illinois Fighting Illini. He was on fire. He could not miss. Every time they were throwing zero blitzes at him, and it was just throwing BBs. He was 13 to 23 against Iowa. Their coverage was good. Their pressure was strong, and they were able to get to him and rattle him really for the first time in his Indiana career throughout. And they stopped the run. Indiana had ran for over 300-plus yards in each of the first 4 games, and they finished with 104, I guess, if you count that 49-yard loss on the end of the game. But still, that would have been half their average. So I thought that overall, this was a really strong effort for Iowa, especially on that side of the field, and a lot to build on.
Yeah, I thought those Entringer plays, those 2 tackles on 4th and 1 were incredible highlights. Kinnick Stadium was so loud. If Iowa wins that game, they're going to remember those 2 4th and 1 stops forever. Phil Parker's defenses are at their best when 10 guys are winning their one-on-one matchup, and that final 11th guy makes the tackle. There were a couple times where that just didn't happen against Indiana. Part of that is fundamentals from Iowa. Part of that is Indiana's running backs and wide receivers just being really good. The Entringer plays, those 4th and 1s, those are examples of the good that we want to see more from Iowa.
Yeah, where it all fell apart kind of, though, was that 4th quarter. I think it started, with that Hank Brown interception. Hawkeyes get the ball back with the Zach Lutmer interception, his 2nd on the season. Then that's followed up by Drew Stevens' missed 42-yard field goal. That's frustrating because he had just drilled a 50-plus yarder in the same quarter, and then Iowa obviously gave up that 49-yard touchdown pass that made it 20-13. As, Scott, you're watching this unfold, that Lutmer play felt like the tide had turned, but we were wrong.
If there was a play that it kind of compares to, and especially with the result, it reminded me of a 2010 against Wisconsin when it was a top 15 showdown, and Brett Greenwood had an interception, and Iowa had a chance to go up big or go up by 2 scores. Instead, they kick a field goal and lose by a point eventually. And that Lutmer interception, that place was rocking.
Yeah.
But the most pivotal play of the game happened before the missed field goal. It was 3rd and 5, and you had an open, not only an open Kamari Moulton, but you had Logan Jones and Bo Stevens out blocking a 2-on-1 on a defensive back. All you have to do is get the ball to Kamari Moulton, and he's going to run, probably get the first down inside of 2 minutes. Indiana doesn't have any timeouts. You milk the clock, you kick the field goal, you win the game, and everybody empties out on the stadium. But the throw was hideous. I'm just going to say it what it was. It was bad, and it's probably one that he didn't sleep on the whole night, but that's a throw you got to make. It's not a low percentage pass. It's a high percentage pass, and to throw it into the dirt was frankly inexcusable given the situation.
Yeah. Your viewpoint, Jack, on just the breakdown?
Yeah, I think that opening drive, the 2 drives really from Hank Brown, it's tough. It's a tough situation for these guys, these backup quarterbacks who come in obvious passing situations. But I don't want to let Hank Brown completely off the hook, because you're a backup quarterback. It's what you're supposed to do is come in, know you're basically one play away from going into the game. And as for that Lutmer interception, that was such a great play to watch if you're a Hawkeye fan, because it just shows what an Iowa defense can do. It's put the zero pressure on. You live by zero pressure. You die by zero pressure. We'll talk about the latter in a minute. But it gives you the chance for Lutmer to make a play. And TJ Hall would have made that same play. Deshaun Lee would have made that same play. And Lutmer takes it back pretty far. I think this kind of goes back to the question of, can Iowa have a queen on the chessboard? Can they have a game breaker? Because those are the guys that can take your 13-13 games and make it a 20-13 game in Iowa's favor. Think about Caleb Johnson and Cooper DeJean. Can Lutmer be that guy? It's looked like for a second, maybe this is it. This is the guy. Turned out not to be. But if you're an Iowa fan, obviously the screen pass. You got to hit that screen pass, Scott, but you can't be mad about having Drew Stevens kicking a field goal with 2 minutes and 1 second remaining inside 50 yards to win the game against the top 15 opponent.
Well, we've gotten to the good and the bad. We're going to get to the ugly, though, after the break. All right, welcome back into On Iowa Live. We're going to get to the ugly that I was mentioning in just a minute, but we're going to get to an audience question first. This one is from Walt. How much credit should Kinnick fans get for their intensity and this being a close game? A lot. 10 out of 10. I think so, and I think you heard it too from Indiana a little bit after the game too, how they were talking about how they hadn't been tested like that in an environment. Obviously, this was their first road game this season. Yes, you can kind of simulate it when you practice. It's still not the same, and I think the players would agree with that.
It's never the same as Kinnick. I mean, Kinnick is one of the greatest atmospheres in college football, if not in sports. When it's like that, the sidelines are so crazy. They're right next to the teams. They can't think. They didn't audible during the game because they couldn't get the sound off. They knew that they couldn't. And those are the environments that for Iowa help Iowa stay in games, potentially win those games. And then for Indiana, it also provided them with a massive gut check. You know, now they know that they can do this, and they've got to go to Oregon in another week and a half. So, but these are the best environments in college football, and Kinnick is certainly one of them. Yeah,
last Saturday, the best environment in college football was in Happy Valley, and the second best, probably it was Alabama, Georgia, but that's when you start to talk about Iowa and Kinnick Stadium, and it doesn't have the sheer numbers that every other stadium. 70,000? It's not near the big house of 100,000, but the fact that the fans are on top of you makes it such a it's so much pressure on the opposing quarterback. Third down conversion rate was something I pointed out. Indiana came in converting on 62% of their third downs. They converted on 40% of their third downs against Iowa. They were also 0 for on fourth down. Now, 0 for 3. One of those fourth downs was that safety, so, 0 for 2, 0 for 3. But yeah, Kinnick Stadium did their part, Chelsie.
I agree. Going to the ugly, we're going to say Mark Gronowski injury. I do want to mention, though, that Kirk Ferentz said that Gronowski felt like he could not decelerate, which is why they made the decision to put Hank Brown in. And then Coach Ferentz said that there was, though, positive feedback from trainers. Didn't reveal, obviously, any additional information that day. I'm sure they'll learn more this week. But I think the collapse after the play was a little bit worrisome for me.
Yeah, considering he's had an ACL, that's always scary because you're susceptible of re-tearing, and in his case, just kind of the way he flopped and then the way he laid there, it's like, oh, here we go, and that's the worst possible situation because in entering week 5, they have learned to play with him. And he's learned to play within himself as a football player. Week 1, it was just really out of sorts. But I think what he's been able to do is maximize his abilities, and Iowa's been able to translate that. And without having him, I mean, he was really good. He completed 19 of 25 passes. He's a dangerous weapon when running the football, especially in broken down plays. But I think they're hoping for that maybe it's some type of a knee sprain that it'll probably keep him out a couple of weeks, but not for the season.
That'd be good.
Gronowski just played his butt off. I mean, we've kind of learned that this guy, and this is a great shot. It came from you, Chelsie, walking away from Kirk Ferentz and talking to Hank Brown. Gronowski's going to play his butt off every single snap, and unfortunately, that one snap, the third and long that he turned into a 4th and 5, where he got tripped up. I think Gronowski's going to try to make that play 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, we were chatting a little bit earlier. Hank Brown completed just 5 of 13 passes, 48 yards, and then the 1 interception. Not the best stats, not how he probably wanted that one to finish out. But at that part in the game, I mean, we're in the 4th quarter. This is do or die, and he's kind of being thrown into it, and the rhythm is just not there like it was with Gronowski. That's kind of what I saw. Scott, did you see anything differently when Hank kind of came in?
He was okay up until the incompletion right before the missed field goal. But then when they're down 7, that's a really tough spot for him because you're going against a really good defense that was averaging less than 9 points allowed per game. They've got players at all 3 levels, so they are a legitimate top 10 team, and so it's pretty difficult to expect him to go in and be able to throw you down the field when Iowa really isn't built that way anyway. So I kind of absolve him, per se, of a lot of the late game struggles because that's just hard to do. But I will say that one pass it's probably the one that kept Tim Lester up, it kept him up, and everybody I can't believe we missed that because if they connect on it, they get the first down. Inside of 2 minutes, Indiana doesn't have any timeouts.
Yeah.
You just run the ball twice up the middle, kick the field goal, win the game. Kinnick's crazy. You're 4-1 at a break. You beat a top 11 team, and instead you're 3-2.
Yeah, in a situation where all the pressure in the world was on him, I didn't see too many fundamental issues. There were just some timing issues with the receivers that I think, let's say Gronowski isn't going to play against Wisconsin and Iowa knows it's Hank Brown and they get the bye week to practice with Hank Brown. I'm actually not too worried about Hank Brown and the way he can slide into the offense. Against Albany in week 1, it kind of looked like that for Gronowski, if you know what I'm saying. The timing was a little bit off. I think in 2 weeks with the bye week and then coming up against Wisconsin, if it is going to be Brown and it's just no questions about it, it's going to be Brown, I think they're going to be able to fix that kind of stuff.
That would be great. But overall, the offense is moving the ball this year, and I think that's a huge plus. I mean, 284 total yards, 192 through the air, 92 on the ground. Indiana held Illinois to 2 rushing yards, 2 total, and 159 through the air, obviously beating them in that blowout, 63-10. I think that it's time we give a little bit more credit to this offense, especially going up against – the number 2 scoring defense in the Hoosiers.
I agree, Chelsie. It's really, people want to look at the overall numbers. Well, Iowa only scored 13 points until that last safety. They got less than 300 yards. It's about possession. And they held the ball for 32 minutes against one of the best teams in the country. It was possession by possession football, ground acquisition. That's how Iowa plays, and that's really how Indiana was unfamiliar with it, and I think you've got to respect that. The way they're running the football is very effective. I mean, 92 yards is not the number that they want, but it's also a really good number. And I think Kamari Moulton is showing me game after game after game that he is an upper-level Big Ten running back, and now that he's healthy, and Nathan McNeil to go along with it, I think that's a really good 1-2 punch that can sustain Iowa for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think if anyone is out here complaining about the 13 points and comparing it to the game against Rutgers, I could tell that the game plan against Indiana was going to keep it. It was going to keep it within the tackle box, keep it short. And that's different. It's different than the way they played against Rutgers. And as far as the game plan was executed, I think it was executed fairly well. I think Tim Lester called himself a pretty good game because they give the ball to Drew Stevens with a 42-yard field goal to go up 16-13 with 2 minutes left. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. Plus, you had an injured quarterback. And then one more point on Moulton. He ran for 4.2 yards per carry against Indiana. That's perfectly fine. It put Iowa in a lot of third and manageable situations. Hawks were 6 of 16 on third down, but when it was just Gronowski, they were 5 of 12 on third down. That's 41%, just a little bit above FBS average. And Moulton is just a perfect 300 hitter. He's a singles hitter for this Hawkeye offense and the rushing attack. We're still waiting on the home run a little bit from Moulton, but I think he's doing exactly what Tim Lester is asking him to do. And the offense has looked good, has looked okay because of it.
And something I'd say is maybe a little uncharacteristic about this Iowa team is just on the special teams. And I know a lot of people want to kind of point the finger at Drew Stevens because he missed the field goal. But he's missed 3 all season. All 3 obviously kind of coming in the last 3 games. But he's 16 for 17 on extra points. The range, I kind of looked this up, that he's struggling with, 40 to 49. But guess what? He is 3 for 3 on 50 plus. So that's why when they're putting him in this situation to kind of kick what could have been a game winner, they have full trust on him. But then also special teams, they had that block punt earlier this season. It has not been the cleanest, I would say, so far.
You've seen the good and the bad here, and probably the ugly a little bit when you start talking about special teams, which is unusual because second partially blocked punt that took place on Saturday, that was one that and you knew that it was coming because Indiana blocked a punt for a touchdown against Illinois. So it was really a time to really batten it down, and they couldn't do it. Drew Stevens obviously missed the field goal, but this is where the details come in.
Yeah.
The holder had the laces to the left. The laces to the left carries to the left, kind of like when you're hitting a golf club and you're hook or slice type of thing. And you've got to. That's why you got to spin it the right way. And in the return game, there was really only 2 opportunities, so you're okay there. But overall, it's been an inconsistent season, and that's been unfortunate. And even though Drew Stevens has missed these field goals, he's still an outstanding kicker. And this was just one where the details really matter.
Yeah.
The details have to be perfect. When you play the way Iowa does, and I remember saying this after the Iowa State game, when you play the way the Hawkeyes play on a razor's edge, one mistake in details can really hurt you. It can go one way or another. And sometimes that mistake is getting your punt blocked or missing a field goal within 50 yards. And sometimes the mistake is the other way, where it's not really a mistake. It's the other team just doing one thing better than you, and that's Kyle Conrady hitting a 54-yard field goal. So these little mistakes, when you play in a razor's edge like Iowa, and I think Tim Lester and Kirk Ferentz are going to play the way they played against Indiana, I don't think it's going to be that different when they play top 10 teams like Penn State and Oregon. They're going to try to play their game. If they fix those little details, they have a chance against the top of the Big Ten, but not if they're missing field goals and getting their punts blocked.
You bet. Well, we are going to look ahead at Iowa's next opponent when we come back. I know. All right, welcome back in to the Pickle Palace here for another edition of On Iowa Live. I'm going to take a moment to thank our sponsors, one being Pickle Palace, Empowering Excellence Charter School, Elite Fitness, and then Ability Physical Therapy. Thank you for sponsoring On Iowa Live. Let's get to another audience question here. Iowa blitzed relentlessly through the game. Will this now be the scheme against heavyweights such as Oregon and Penn State? Thoughts?
I think against Oregon that may be the there's a lot of things you can and do, and they're all going to be wrong against Oregon, but you might have to. And because you're going to have to force them to make a play. And that's what the only thing you could really do against Fernando Mendoza, because he's very accurate and he looks the part. He is right now projected to be possibly the number 1 quarterback taken in the draft. So they had to force the action, get to the quarterback, which they did. They hit him a lot, and they made him miss passes. That's probably going to be the prescription against Oregon. As far as other teams, I wouldn't do it at all against Wisconsin because it doesn't matter. Just sit back in coverage. They're going to throw you the ball.
I'm not nearly as smart as Phil Parker, and frankly, I can't think of anything else besides dialing up the zero pressure against Dante Moore and Drew Aller and just give it a chance. Fernando Mendoza is a really good quarterback, and there was only one play where he truly 100% beat the zero pressure, and it was the game-winning touchdown. And even then, Deshaun Lee had the receiver Surratt wrapped up. He just slipped out of his grasp. If that's a tackle as opposed to a 49-yard touchdown, who knows how the game could go. Perhaps that this is something we'll ask Phil Parker about when he meets with the media on Tuesday.
Well, I know the offense is a little banged up right now, obviously, but the good news is that Iowa has a bye this week. Then they will head to Madison in the Battle for the Heartland Trophy. It's a 6 p.m. game, FS1. Then they host 7th-ranked Penn State. Then they host Minnesota, and then 2nd-ranked Oregon right now. So the schedule just kind of goes up from here. But I think getting Wisconsin could be a good time and maybe a bounce back that Iowa needs before returning back to Kinnick Stadium.
It's a good time to play Wisconsin this year. I think probably in this case. Now, I'll say this, that anytime you go up, Highway 151, you're going to get a fist fight. And last year they were embarrassed, losing 42-10 and giving up 323 yards to the Hawkeyes. And even in the spring, the defensive players would do 42 push-ups after every practice because they gave up 42 points against Iowa. And I'm like, well, based on how you played against Maryland, you should have had 85 push-ups after every practice. But Wisconsin, this is the worst Wisconsin team I've seen in 35 years. And it does come at a good time. And if you go to Camp Randall and you win decisively, you'll feel good about yourself and prepare for some really tough games because after Oregon's at USC and you got Nebraska at the end and Michigan State there too. So this is a very, very difficult schedule. But, winning that fist fight that always happens in Madison, I think that is a cure-all for at some point.
Yeah. The one tough thing for Iowa is that game is at night, and it's really the last chance for Wisconsin to say, oh, yeah, we could win that game until the schedule gets impossibly tough. So I think Iowa, they're going to game plan differently against Wisconsin than they did against Indiana. But if they can play the way they played against Wisconsin, the way they played against Indiana, you know what I'm saying? I was a little
Yes.
backwards there. I think if they played a similar game, they're going to win against Wisconsin, even though Camp Randall at night is pretty loud and pretty tough to play in.
You bet. Any final thoughts on Iowa before we switch to the team out west, as some people like to call it?
You know what? I do want to just reiterate that I have seen a lot of growth from this team. I
Yeah?
think they're playing really well. The unfortunate part is the schedule. If you replace Oregon with Maryland or Oregon with Northwestern, sorry, Jack, or Purdue or somebody like that, or UCLA, instead of Penn State and Oregon and, the old Big Ten West schedule, then this team would still be in the hunt for a lot of really, of upper level possibilities. But this is a really challenging schedule, and I know I'm spitting in the wind here, but I hope people kind of look at this team and say, I'm seeing the strides. They're making good progress. They are a good team, and the final record may not indicate it because they actually may be better at the end of the year than they've been, even the last 3 to 4 years. Yeah. The record just may not indicate it.
Yeah, just to echo those sentiments, Doc, this Iowa team is different than Iowa teams of old. And I think Hawkeye fans, the true Hawkeye fans, they know that. The rep on Iowa is punting, defense. We'll care about offense later. But this Iowa team is making strides, and you're right about the schedule. It gets really tough. But I think this Iowa team, or the Iowa team that we saw on Saturday, if they can continue fixing things, they might have a shot against Oregon and Penn State. But Kinnick, the crowd, has really got to show up.
And Iowa State, they are now 5-0, the 14th ranked Cyclos, after beating Arizona 39-14. They're on the road for the next 2 games, but I did not envision this one being close. It was not close. Iowa State has once again shown that they have something good out in Ames.
5-0, second year in a row. Matt Campbell's now tied for 5th all-time in Big 12 victories. They just continue to get better, and they're beating teams like they should. And that's a hallmark of a really good team and a well-coached team, that he's able to go against. Arizona is actually pretty decent. And yet to be able to dismantle them the way they did. The only downside for them was Rocco Beck's touchdown streak ended at 22 games, but he did run for 3 touchdowns. And I would say the next 2 on the road, Cincinnati and Colorado, challenging opponents.
Yep.
But if they play well, they win, probably decisively. If they don't, then they can get in a situation like they did with Arkansas State. But this team is rolling. They're well coached. They've got everything. And then even wide receivers are coming to play, which is an asset for the Cyclones.
You just can't bet against Rocco Becht. I mean, we probably learned that after the Kansas State game in week 0, but you can't bet against Rocco Becht anymore. I think eventually that 9-1 record in their last 10 one-possession games, it's going to change. Iowa State's going to drop one of these close games eventually because that's how football works. But, man, I would not bet on it when you have Rocco Becht there. And Chase Sowell coming on for a career high in receiving yards on just 4 receptions. If he can be a deep threat over the top and open things up for Benjamin Bramer and Gabe Burkle, that could be the secret sauce to getting Iowa State back to the Big 12 championship game if they can stay healthy.
Well, they've been fun to watch. When we come back, we will answer some more audience questions. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We're joined by Andy from Ability Physical Therapy and Elite Fitness. Andy, physical therapists provide diagnosis, treatment plans, and patient care for many ailments and dysfunctions of the body. What trends do you see in your clinics as far as what people need assistance with?
Thank you. Yes, so at our clinics, we are outpatient orthopedic, like general outpatient clinics, and we get referrals from physicians, but also walk-in patients that are covered by insurance as well. I would say the top diagnoses we see are like knee and shoulder pain.
Okay. And how long would the typical person need to see a physical therapist before they're symptom-free?
That's a good question. It is highly dependent on the severity of their problem, their symptoms. Our first goal is usually the pain reduction and improved mobility of whatever is stiff or not moving well. And within 2 to 3 weeks, we can get a good idea of, hey, are we going to reach these goals of mobility? And then we can start tapering the physical therapy visits in the clinic so they can go home and work on some strengthening. If we're failing to reach their goals over the course of like 4 to 6 weeks, we would advise them on, seeing a doctor for further assessment and possible treatments.
And how can people find a full list of services and get a hold of you?
They can go to our website, chooseabilitypt.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, let's get into some more audience questions. Jack, let's have you take this one. Should Caden Weegan start returning kickoffs instead of touchbacks 2 yards deep in the end zone?
Yeah, he didn't really have too many chances to return kickoffs. I think if you're a Madden player or a college football 26 player, you might think, oh, catch the ball. Let's run. Let's try to hit a home run. And maybe this is a question we'll ask LeVar Woods on Tuesday is, why not just have Weegan return it every time? You never know when you're going to hit the home run. If you can hit the home run once every 3 games, that's great. But LeVar Woods clearly has a strategy with his kickoff or his kick return teams for every single kick return. And with an Iowa program that's all about field positioning, clearly LeVar Woods knows something, and it's in every individual kick return situation. So the simplest answer is not in reality the correct answer. Oh, just have him return it every time. It's really not that simple. He's
got restrictions, right? All right. The bye week gives the coaching staff a chance to evaluate the games played. Where do they start? Do you want to take this one? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. Tackling. I mean, come on. The tackling has to be better. You have to clean that up against Wisconsin. You have to clean it up, but you certainly have to clean it up against Oregon and Penn State. This Iowa team, and we've heard this year after year after year, they like focusing on themselves and not worried about the team coming up next Saturday. So I think this bye week is going to be a good time for them to focus on their own fundamentals, the little details with the blocking, with the tackling. It's simple, it's a little boring, but that is your answer there.
Building off that, Iowa's defense seems to be struggling with tackling. Is it youth, technique, positioning? Scott?
I think it's a little bit of youth. I think in some respects what I've noticed is a couple of the more inexperienced positions have recognized the play just a tad too late as compared to their predecessors. So they're getting to the play a little bit slower, and therefore they're not in better prime tackling position, which enables them to break off. I mean, like on the Surratt touchdown, Deshaun Lee was way back.
Yeah.
And Surratt, being a very competitive receiver and an understanding, broke his route just a little bit quickly, was able to catch it. Deshaun Lee was back too far. Maybe if he's pressing a little bit, or sometimes I think some of the other linebackers have just been a tad too late to the play, whereas somebody like Jay Higgins had the instincts to get there quicker.
Last question. Why were no penalties assessed after the kerfuffle on the Indiana sideline?
There was nothing to penalize. Xavier Wampa's hit was legal. It was in bounds. Indiana had a strong reaction, and deservedly so, because their quarterback got hit and drilled out of bounds. Iowa ran over there to defend their player. Nobody did anything wrong. Nobody hit anybody, punched anybody. It was just a lot of young men, getting crazy, which is what happens in the sport of football.
It's football, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our pick'ems, starting with Iowa State and Cincinnati this week, right? I got Iowa State for everyone. Jack, do you want to take why you pick Iowa State?
Yeah, I've got Iowa State for what I was saying before. They're going to lose one of these one-possession games because the tide is going to turn, but I'm not betting on it, so I think Rocco Becht is going to go into Cincinnati. Man, he's so experienced at this point that I trust him on the road just as much as I trust him at home. So I'm picking Iowa State.
You bet. UNI, North Dakota this week. we all also picked North Dakota.
Yeah, it's a welcome to the MVC football
right?
for Todd Stepsis.
I agree. And then the next one we did was Bama and Vanderbilt. Looks like a clean sweep for Bama. We're not picking Vandy to upset?
I'm not picking them this year. Not after last year when they're dragging the goalposts down Broadway Street in Nashville. That's not going to happen. Alabama with Ty Simpson, they're going to beat Diego Pavia. But it's going to be a fun game, that's for sure.
Yeah.
This is an Alabama team that got punched in the mouth early, and now they've got an edge. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet against that.
Yeah.
And then we have Miami and Florida State. Colin can't defend himself. Wait, no, Jack, you can. You picked Miami. We went Florida State.
So I really like the numbers for Florida State, so I was really on the fence about this one. But Miami's schedule has been so difficult. They have really, really proved themselves. Just not as if Florida State's schedule has been super easy. I mean, they played Alabama. But I think Miami has just proved themselves so well. They're going to win. But, man, I reserve the right to be wrong about this one because this is going to be tight.
You win FSU.
I went FSU. They lost a double overtime game on the road at Virginia. They're going to come back upset. And Mario Cristobal always finds a way to lose at least one game. And this is the first time that they've played since they've been in the ACC where this game matters this much. So I look for FSU to bounce back and upset Miami.
And we got one more. It is the Washington-Maryland game. Wanted to pick one in the Big Ten. Kind of split on this one. Colin can't defend himself. We all picked Washington.
Oh, we did? Colin picked Maryland?
Colin picked Maryland. He's from Maryland. He's a
that makes
homer,
sense.
you know.
I was thinking Maryland at first just because they have a bye, but looking back at the condensed game against Ohio State, Washington kind of controlled a lot of the early action against the Buckeyes, and because it's the #1 team in the country, they just kind of tried to do too much, and it bit them in the butt. If they were just going to play safe the whole time, they were obviously going to lose. So they played to win, and I like that. And I think they're going to beat Maryland, but Maryland could. I mean, Maryland's undefeated, and if they're good, that's a huge story in the Big Ten because their schedule isn't that hard.
Yeah.
Maryland, not as good as Washington, period.
Fair enough. Thank you, Sky, once again for joining us. Thank you, Jack, for joining us this week. When we come back, we're going to have Solon Football head coach Lucas Stanton join me on stage. All right, we're going to look at this week's Athlete of the Week nominees just first. This is the golf nominees for this week. Cedar Rapids Xavier freshman Harrison Hartke won the MVC Mississippi Divisional. Over 3 rounds, he shot .212, helping the Saints become division champs. Hartke was also named the MVC Player of the Year. Cedar Rapids Prairie's Henry Sabaski shot a 209 at the MVC Valley Divisional. The junior helped the Hawks take first as a team. And then finally, Cedar Falls' Drew Larimer shot 201 at the Valley Divisional to win individually. He shot an impressive 62 in round 2. To vote, you can visit our homepage at kcrg.com or vote on our Instagram story. All right, joining me now is Solon Football head coach Lucas Stanton. Coach, Spartans are off to an undefeated start so far. How does that feel?
Feels really good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
77-0 was the final last week?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
I mean, what went right for you guys? Seemed like everything.
Just about everything.
Yeah?
A lot of short fields, a lot of guys executing and doing their job.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you look at your schedule, and it has not been easy. You had Mount Vernon, you had Benton. I know those are always tough games. Those are teams just right down the road. What has led to being victorious against those teams and those opponents?
Well, I think our off-season preparation, our kids do a really good job in the off-season. In the weight room, leadership, playing multiple sports, leading up to the season. They just did a really good job preparing. And then, we just really take it one game at a time, and we don't really – obviously we prepare for every opponent, but we don't really talk about the opponent. It's about our standard and playing up to our standard.
What is the standard for this year's team?
They want to win a state title.
Okay.
That's the ultimate goal, but we have a lot of work to do before that happens.
Yeah. You're saying that as you sit undefeated right now, and I love the eagerness and the competitiveness to do that. But when you look at, let's start with the offense. You got a quarterback that can throw the ball. You got a wide receiver duo, that kind of does a lot of things. What's working so well on that side?
Well, Eli's a really good leader, first and foremost, and he's put in the time in the offseason with his receivers. But it all starts up front. I'm going to give our big guys a lot of love. They do a fantastic job blocking for those guys and preparing throughout the week.
Defensively, what are you doing well?
We don't do anything fancy on defense. We we really preach fundamentals. Coach Hattie has done a phenomenal job coming in this year and just keeping things simple, and it's really just about doing your job on defense and running to the football.
Going back to that Mount Vernon game that you guys played, what stood out to you about how you were able to stop a very also dynamic Mount Vernon team?
Yeah, I think, our preparation throughout the week, we knew they had a really good quarterback and some good skill guys, but we felt like we had the advantage up front. And, I think on both sides of the ball, it always starts up front. And on any good football team, that's where it's going to start. And our defensive line really set the tone for us and getting pressure on their quarterback. And then we just did a good job of keeping things in front and getting some turnovers.
Yeah, last week, 70-plus points you put on the board. You shut out your opponent. How do you, though, keep your team kind of level-headed to make sure that, they're still looking at the goals that are down the way?
Well, that can be a challenge. We try to talk to them on Sundays in our meeting just about, staying humble and continuing to prepare at our standard. And not, I think it was Sunday I talked to him about just, how entitlement can creep in if you're not careful when you have success, and just being aware of those things and continuing to push even more and not being satisfied with where we're at.
Doesn't sound like you're satisfied just yet. Yeah.
No, not yet. Not yet.
All right, thanks, Coach. Yeah. We're going to have the entire football team come join us on stage right after the break. All right, welcome back into OnIowa Live. We are joined by the Solon Football team, the undefeated Spartans so far this season. Let's introduce who's on the mic first. Why don't we start with you?
I'm Eli Campman.
Beautiful.
James Thompson.
Beautiful. Eli, let's start with you about last week. 77-0.
Yes,
Did you
ma'am.
anticipate that going into this game, and what do you think of your team's performance?
We knew that the game was going to be kind of like that, but we prepared like it was a state championship, and that's why we got the score that we ended with.
Yeah. What did you guys do so well in that game?
I think we played as a team, and
Yeah?
that's about the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys have some big wins so far this season. I think of the Mount Vernon. I think of Benton Community. Those are always some pretty tough teams. What stood out to you about why you guys came out on top in those?
Because we play as a team, and everyone does their job, so we can trust each other and rely on each other in big moments when we need to.
Which one stands out to you more, Mount Vernon or Benton?
I think Mount Vernon. It's a big rivalry
Yeah.
week, and I think we prepared very well as a team.
Yeah, what did you guys do well against the Mustangs?
I think we practice every week the same. We're going hard, keeping each other accountable, and that leads to great success.
Yeah. Eli, you're obviously quarterback of this team. You got a good, strong connection, with some of your wide receivers. But what is working so well for you guys on that side of the ball? Is it communication? Is it, your preparation throughout the week? What is it?
I think that our guys on the perimeter are really smart. They understand defenses, and they know where they need to be, and that really just helps us out to have the production that we've had.
Yeah. You guys undefeated. I know you don't let that necessarily get to you. What do you say amongst the team to kind of make sure you guys are staying even-keeled and on the right path?
Practice every week the same. Whether it's a team that's not as great or the state championship, you got to play every game the same.
Yeah. What does your week of practice look like? Like when you start, what was today? Did you have an
Monday
off
was
day?
walkthrough.
Got it. And then keep going.
Tuesday, we gear it up and have a tough practice, full pads, and get after it. And then Wednesday, we work on special teams. It's more game-like. We flip offense, defense to simulate a game. And then on Thursday, we don't have practice. We just have team meal.
You bet. Where or what areas do you want to see this team improve on within these next few weeks?
Just what we're doing outside of football practice as a team, the love for each other, and yeah.
Do you guys hang out outside of football?
I think
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah. What do you like to do for fun?
Well, we're about to go play some pickleball.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Who here has played pickleball before? Raise your hand. Oh, a lot of you. That's wonderful. Anyone good? Okay, we still got a few hands. That's a good team activity. Any other activities that you guys do?
Play cards. We had a summer camp that we like to play cards at least we did this year.
And as far as the goals for this team, Coach mentioned state championship, getting to state, obviously. What do you have to do in order to get there from here on out?
I think we just take it a week at a time and keep our eyes down, and it's next step, like foot in front of the other mentality and eat off the floor.
I'm sure that's not easy, though, because you guys probably walk into school, everyone's talking about the game on Friday. Do you guys just kind of stay in your little bubble? How do you kind of keep out the noise?
I think leaning on each other for help is really important in those situations.
Okay. How do you lean on one another? Just ignore the noise outside, or what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, Coach Stanton always says, don't eat the rat poison, the outside noise.
Okay. Don't eat the rat poison. Coach,
Yeah.
where'd that come from?
I wish I could say I made that up, but I got it from Nick Saban.
Oh,
Yeah.
Coach, yeah.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah.
As far as goals this week, what are we focusing on to prepare for Friday?
Just to execute. We started off with our Monday practice, and we're just looking to get some guys in for a homecoming week, some
Okay.
guys that don't play a lot, and have fun.
Yeah. Anything you want to add? Anything you guys are focusing on this week to prepare for Friday?
No, not really.
It's homecoming week?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Yeah. What are you guys doing to celebrate homecoming week? Do you guys have Spirit Week this week?
We have a parade on Wednesday.
Okay. How do you kind of keep level-headed and kind of stay, all about football? Or do you guys get to enjoy it a little bit?
I mean, I think there's a balance, but we all care about football so much that I don't think it's really a problem for us.
Yeah. Are you guys enjoying this season so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. What would be, besides a state championship, what would kind of make this year a year to remember?
Playing for each other.
Okay. Sweet. Awesome. Let's thank the Solon Spartan football team who is undefeated. Who do we got this week, Coach?
Keokuk.
Keokuk. I know the coach down there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to Solon for joining us this week on OnIowa Live. We'll see you again next Monday.